homemade English muffins. I couldn't figure out which one I wanted, so we did classic bacon, egg, and cheese along with some jam and butter. These things are fantastic to make. Watch how we make it. First things first, we need to get the dough started, right? It's gonna take a while to proof, so let's get it started. We have our milk and water already mixed up. It should be right in there about 110 degrees, 115 degrees, somewhere through there. Been out here for a couple minutes, kind of cooled down, but I think we're gonna be all right. These are ingredients right here. I've already got them weighed out, measured out, and all that other stuff. But the most important thing is, if you follow along, our recipe will be on theflattopking.com. You guys can check that out for the exact measurements. What we'll do here is actually just in that warm water. So this is water and milk. We're gonna add the yeast. And then have our little packet of sugar. We're just gonna add a good pinch. And that's gonna help activate the yeast. About 10 minutes later, you should see your liquid being really, really frothy. As you can see, our yeast has risen nicely. That means it's alive and active. You're good to go from here. So I'm just gonna pour that in the bottom. Make sure you get all those good bits in case any of these settled on the side of the bowl. Maybe some sugar didn't get dissolved. All that's a part of the recipe. Butter, 1 beaten egg, some sour cream, flour, salt, the rest of your sugar, and your stand mixture. It goes. We're gonna put it on like low just to get that flour incorporated, and then we'll be able to turn it up for a medium. We're looking for about 5 to 8 minutes. You'll start noticing the dough start pulling away from the sides of the bowl. It's gonna look pretty wet. This is a wetter dough. This is not your typical white bread or even dinner roll style dough. It's gonna be sticky and it's gonna be wet. That's how you get the leavening. That's how you get some nooks and crannies. The difference of this is it's treated very similar. But you'll notice when you open an English muffin, it's got all the air pockets in it versus like dinner rolls or white bread. You know, you don't have those pockets in there. So that's why it's gonna be runny at first. All right, a little olive oil in a bowl, a little spray. And then remember I said your dough is supposed to be sticky. It will not climb up your dough hook, so don't panic. So this is what we want right here. Maybe just a light dusting on top. At this point, you can leave it overnight in the refrigerator. We're not going to do that. We're just going to give it the 1.5 hour rest. By that time, I should be able to get this plastic wrap out of the plastic wrap container. The struggle is real, y'all. The struggle is real. On the next episode of how to use plastic wrap.
Here.
About the time you get done fiddling with your plastic wrap, your dough should be risen about 1.5 hours later. So that's what we're gonna look at. We actually kept the dough outside. It's a little bit warmer outside than it is inside. You guys can make that decision. Obviously, if it's 30 degrees outside, 45 degrees, you know, bring your dough inside. It's been about 1.5 hours. You guys can see that our dough has risen nicely. That's a good sign. That means everything's working as planned. We have a sheet tray. And we have cornmeal. When you do this, the one thing that I would suggest is not getting the coarse cornmeal. Try to get the finer side. You're gonna lay down just a base coat of this. This gives it the unique and iconic texture and flavor of an English muffin. A little bit up here for our cutter. I'll show you guys a little trick. I've just got like a 3-inch, what do you call it, dough cutter, biscuit cutter, something like, yeah, not a dough cutter, biscuit cutter. Speaking of dough cutter, I need one. Should be able to lay this down, oh yeah, just like so. That's what you're looking for right there. A touch more. We're not really gonna need this dough, but what we're gonna do is kind of like pattern it out, flatten it out. And I hope you guys can see how many air bubbles and how soft this dough is. You want to get about probably like 3/4 to a 1/2 inch, something like that. Probably depends on how thick you want your English muffins. Straight down. Okay. Come back in that flour, straight down. You don't want to disturb it too much. You guys can see how much gas and how much air pockets we have. Remember, that's how you get your nooks and crannies, right? Working with a lot of flour. That's you got your cornmeal down. So now you're just going to look to separate. I'll show you why I'm moving this flour, because when you reform this dough, you don't want to incorporate a lot more flour. So now you're just going to take it, work it. Remember, it's a wet dough. Don't be scared of your dough cutter. A little flour in the hand. These little egg molds, I have them all the time. It's not necessarily as important to get them perfectly round. Remember, they're going to proof back up. But when you do it, you do want your egg molds to be a little bit floury on the inside, so your dough doesn't stick, okay? You're kind of just using these egg molds as kind of like just a base template, okay? You can take if you wanted to, you could take a little bit more flour and take it off the board, or take it out of the bowl and start kneading this. But honestly, I kind of like it like this. I just think it has more nooks and crannies. The less you work it, the more the gases work. You know, start sticking to the board. We're not looking for like perfect. You'd be amazed how much that dough cutter works to make that skin tight. And just press it down. These are going to proof again. Okay, so this is what I'm doing, okay? It's going to be sticky, okay? This is a sticky dough, okay? What you're doing is you're just tucking that bottom in, and you should look with something like that. Okay. You can use a scale if you wanted to, but honestly, I think it's just a lot easier with the biscuit cutter. All right, just like biscuit dough, you got extra dough here. You're just gonna knead this back into a ball. Same thing. Technically, these should be easier to work because they got more flour in them. But if you take the flour out of it, that's how you get really, really good nooks and crannies. Okay, let's see. Cornmeal, check. Light dusting on top. And these are going to proof for another 30, 40 minutes, something like that. Just kind of gauge your plastic wrap. Then the light dusting of oil. That's going to help it from not to stick. There we go. All right, like I said, about 30 to 45 minutes, and we'll start the English muffins. Honestly, it's hard to have a fresh English muffin without having some type of breakfast on it. Jam, meats, sandwiches, and a bacon, egg, and cheese. To me right now, it sounded absolutely phenomenal. I got a pound of bacon I'm just cooking. So that's what we're going to have. A little orange marmalade with homemade English muffins and some bacon, egg, and cheese English muffins. Just sounds good to me. All right, we got our griddle cleaned off after all the bacon. I actually shut it off because your griddle will climb. You don't want to start these at a high temperature. You don't want, even though your griddle might be on low, you have to check your temperature. I'm talking about maybe 300 degrees, somewhere through there. If your griddle's at 450 or 550 on low, like some of them get, you might need to alternate your burners and get a cooler zone. However you want to figure it out, you need to start about 300 degrees. I'm gonna leave that up to you. But the real important issue.
Ooh, they look good.
There's those suckers right there. That is fantastic. I can tell the way the plastic pulled off, our dough's a little bit moist. So I'm just going to hit it a little bit more with this cornmeal. It's going to help the sticking. It's going to give you a little bit more crunch. I probably overloaded this. I know I'm going to regret that decision. I tried to make it on one sheet tray, but honestly, you probably don't want your English muffins sticking. If I had to do it over again, I would have done 9 and done a whole nother sheet tray. That's a story for another day. All right. Do not mess with these. You want these to be fluffy. And then I'm going to try something a little bit different. I've been wanting to do this, and the reason for this is I'm going to see if we can't get some perfect style English muffins. Let them climb in that egg mold. All right, as long as it's taking me to get these on here, we've slowly went up to about 350. That's kind of what you want, okay? Because once you flip them over, it's going to help get that char as well. It's like a slow process. You're actually baking, but it's griddle done. So you can see right now we got some very nice thick style English muffins. Everything's working out nicely. You just want to check the bottoms. These can get dark in a hurry. I know there's a lot of griddles out there. So that's probably the only thing that would caution you. I wouldn't fear about necessarily like how you make them, right? This is a sticky dough. You can get away with a lot of things. It's yeast, it'll bounce back. Don't worry about perfect uniform shapes. I've never worried about it. But what you do want to keep your eye on is your hot spots on your griddle. Sometimes I really appreciate even style cooking on griddles, and this is one of them, using the Traeger. I don't have to worry about my temperature zones or the temperature climbing too high. All right, anywhere between 5 and 7 minutes, you want to start checking, okay? And you want to have a good flip on these, like a pancake. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the ring molds definitely keep it a little bit more uniform. They're not 100% necessary, but definitely has its place. All right, same amount of time, and then you're just looking for doneness. Just like a biscuit, you need to make sure it cooks all the way through. If you need to adjust your burners, now's the time to do so. Mine's getting a little hot, so I just cut it off for a minute. I'll probably turn it back on once it drops down to about 325. After your English muffins has set, you've already flipped them once. Couple minutes, you just keep an eye on that backside. Just go and put a little dome over it, whatever dome you got. It just helps that heat circulate and acts more as an oven. You don't have to. I'm gonna keep these separate just so you can see the difference. It's not that huge of a deal. Look at that. Now that is almost, look at that. That is phenomenal. Yep. So these are pretty much done. Flip these over. These were the big ones that were on the in the ring mold, so a little bit thicker. So these might have to go just a hair longer. I've been adjusting my griddle on and off, trying to keep that 325, 350 range. The one thing I didn't mention, and I should have, you don't want to start with a greased griddle. Okay, you want a dry griddle. So take some paper towels, take that leftover oil you've had from the last time that you cooked. Once it heats up, get it off of there. And start with a dry griddle. A little bit of butter. I'm just gonna do a light scramble right inside of the mold. Salt and pepper. Add just a little bit of water. Just like that. So these should be done. Going to take these off.
They smell delicious too.
Yep. I think these English muffins have a ton of resilience. When you mess with a wet dough, if you're used to messing with a drier dough, there is a little scare factor, but don't let that fool you. These things have a lot of resilience. They'll bounce back. Don't worry about being perfect, but they are fun to make. We made them before we made this recipe. I tried a different recipe out. I don't like the combination. This one I can tell you by far is superior. Color, smell, texture, quality. I can tell everything right now even before opening. That right there is a dang good English muffin. Perfectly done eggs. That water steams it a little bit. Keeps that temperature down. Not a lot of browning. Just lay some cheese down. Put bacon, egg, and cheese. And find you some really nice English muffins. Obviously, you know that you do it with a fork. See that swellage on the side?
Swellage.
There's actually a term for it, and I don't know what it is. I've forgotten it. There's a culinary term for it. Spillage, swellage.
I don't think that's it.
Something. It's when the actual English muffin relaxes. Oh, look at there.
Oh, man.
Looky
Boy,
there.
that looks perfect.
Good thing about making your own breakfast sandwich, you can add as much bacon as you want. There you go. Homemade English muffin breakfast sandwiches. Here's one of those round ones. See how thicker we got? Because I was able to climb instead of spread. Be able to open this up.
Golly, it smells so good.
And then, just because I couldn't figure out which one I wanted, when we decided to make this recipe, a little butter, your favorite jam. I always have some orange marmalade because I use it a lot in barbecue.
It's really good on salmon.
Yep. And there you go. Warm, nooks and crannies style homemade English muffins, done whatever way you like to, but they're phenomenal. All right, guys, there you go. That is some fantastic homemade English muffins. This had that butter on there. It's already melted.
I don't want the orange chili. I just want butter. I might just grab one of these. Just bite into one of these.
You need butter the whole thing?
Yeah. Well, here.
Just on top?
Well, I was gonna have you.
You need butter your biscuit, don't you? Just eat the English muffin. While you're doing that, and getting all your moaning and groaning in. That is so fun.
Here.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 English muffins.
Golly, that is fantastic. That's like a Egg McMuffin, but 10 times better.
This is one of the doughs you can let it rest in the refrigerator overnight. If you go home from work, make the dough, throw it in the refrigerator, come out the next day and have breakfast for dinner. It only takes about 30, 45 minutes to proof on the second time.
That is fantastic. That's a good dough. It's flavorful.
Oh, golly. And that's how you play on your griddle. You know what? Yeah, did it take a long time? Absolutely. Can you buy a store-bought? You can do that on most things. But to come out here, enjoy it. The weather's beautiful. Make homemade English muffin. You can make homemade English muffin breakfast sandwiches. Like I said, the jams. A lot of people want to start making their jams pretty soon. Just a great way to incorporate the griddle into your repertoire. I like that word. If you guys are interested, we have a join button down below to a membership program. We thank each and every one of you for taking time for doing so. Also, check us out on the Griddle group on Facebook. So we're talking about griddles, smokers, you name it, we talk about it. It's just outdoor cooking is what we love. And we also love seeing what you guys cook. So thank you so much for all that support. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to press that subscribe button, pound the notification button, share it with your friends. English muffin going down.
Golly, that's good.
Okay.
That is really good.